Breaking. 8 four-star generals have just confronted the Prime Minister and told him he is dangerously, catastrophically wrong. Their warning is so serious that Britain's most elite soldiers are now preparing to take him to court. Welcome back to UK Ago. What you're about to hear is one of the most direct challenges a British Prime Minister has ever faced from the very people who defend this country with their lives. The SAS Regimental Association has issued a formal threat to sue the government over legislation they say will cripple Britain's defenses, undermine military morale, and betray the men who fought in the darkest chapters of the Troubles. This isn't a fringe campaign or some political stunt. These are individuals who served in counterterrorism operations that most people will never even read about. And they're warning the country that the Prime Minister either does not understand what he has unleashed, or worse, understands perfectly and simply does not care. Labour's repeal of the Legacy Act has detonated a political, legal, and moral firestorm. The Legacy Act was controversial, yes, but it gave veterans one thing they desperately needed: closure. No more endless inquests. No more waking up in your 70s to discover you're being investigated for a split-second decision you made at 22 in a Belfast alley. Now that the act has been scrapped, at least 9 inquests are back from the dead. Men in their 60s and 70s, men who followed orders and upheld the law, are suddenly being pulled into new investigations. And this is why the SAS is furious. They say the Prime Minister is either catastrophically misbriefed or is blindly accepting a plan from the Northern Ireland office that is deeply flawed. Their words, not mine. And when 8 retired 4-star generals, an Air Chief Marshal, and veterans from the Royal Ulster Constabulary all stand together and say the same thing, it's not politics, it's a warning. They reminded the government of something every leader should fear. The first duty of any government is the defense of the realm. Their argument is brutally simple. If soldiers know they could be prosecuted 50 years later for decisions made in life-or-death situations, why on earth would anyone volunteer for the most dangerous missions today? The British military already faces a recruitment crisis. Numbers are down, morale is strained, and retention is collapsing. Now young recruits are being told, serve your country, but understand that decades from now, shifting political winds could put you in court for following the rules you were given. Who would accept that burden? Former Lieutenant Colonel Simon Barry, who served during the worst of the Troubles, said openly that the veteran and RUC community simply do not believe the Prime Minister. They don't trust his assurances, his legal language, or his promises of balanced protections. And they have good reason. The Royal Ulster Constabulary, officers who faced bombs, ambushes, shootings, and assassinations, say the new system is not credible. They've seen how legal processes can be weaponized, how activist lawyers can drag soldiers through decades-old events with modern legal standards that didn't exist at the time. They know what it means when justice becomes politics. Barry went even further. He said allowing the Republic of Ireland to participate in these investigations is nothing less than a betrayal of both victims and sovereignty. To many veterans, that statement cuts deep. During the Troubles, Irish territory was used as sanctuary by IRA operatives, planning attacks, storing weapons, escaping across the border. And now Irish authorities get a role in assessing British soldiers who fought to stop those attacks. To veterans, that is an oversight. That is humiliation. During Prime Minister's questions, Conservative MP Mark Francois delivered the most devastating blow of all. He said, "The PM may be an experienced lawyer, but he has never been a soldier. How can he possibly believe he understands the protections veterans need better than 8 retired 4-star generals and the SAS itself?" Parliament fell silent because Francois wasn't attacking Starmer's intelligence. He was attacking his authority to speak on this issue at all. And the truth is, Starmer's legal lens is part of the problem. He sees this as a human rights puzzle, a balancing exercise. Veterans see it as something entirely different: survival. They know what it means when you have 2 seconds to decide whether a car approaching your checkpoint is a suicide bomber or a frightened civilian. They know what it means when prosecutors decades later apply peacetime logic to wartime chaos. And veterans know something else. Even if a case collapses, the damage is done. Homes remortgaged, savings gone, reputations permanently stained. Newspapers label you a killer, neighbors whisper, families suffer. And worst of all, you're dragged back into the trauma you spent decades trying to bury. That isn't accountability. That is cruelty disguised as justice. The SAS Association believes this law is so dangerous that they are preparing a judicial review to stop it. And they're not alone. Public sentiment is overwhelmingly on their side. Almost 70% of Britons oppose reopening Troubles-era cases. Even a majority of Labour voters do not support it. Yet Labour pushes forward anyway, partly because of promises made to Northern Irish parties, partly because of ideological pressure from human rights groups, and partly because reversing course would expose just how catastrophic this decision might be. Yet the issue is complex. Families of victims want answers. Some have waited nearly half a century for inquests that were suddenly canceled. They deserve truth and closure. But veterans argue that they followed the laws, rules of engagement, and political mandates of the time. And now, decades later, they're being judged under new standards by people who never faced the chaos of Belfast streets, with the moral equivalence of soldiers and terrorists treated as modern sophistication. Ireland's involvement only deepens the divide. To many veterans, handing investigative influence to a country that offered shelter, willingly or not, to IRA operatives is intolerable. This raises fundamental questions. Who controls British justice? Who protects British forces? And what message does this send to the next generation of soldiers who might one day deploy to another conflict? So here we stand, a prime minister who has never served, insisting the system will protect veterans, and Britain's most elite warriors saying the system is broken beyond repair. Someone is catastrophically wrong, and Britain's national security may depend on who wins this fight. Should Troubles-era soldiers face prosecution today? Or is Labour right to reopen these cases in the name of justice? Tell me in the comments. And if you want to follow every step of this legal battle, subscribe. This fight is only beginning, and the outcome could reshape Britain's military future forever.